How's it going with you, Jack? Good? Great. How much longer before we open up there? Wow. Boy, that's a pretty... Woo. That's what TL the other day, Flo. Why he's telling me to. Terry's into those mega yachts. Mega. It's a whole different animal. It has a whole new meaning, Terry told him. Mega. Woo.
First hidden largest triple steel deck. Very nice. 181. First one.
Because I didn't even think about it until 13
When
seconds.
your son came in, he had these boats in the pipeline, so then everybody pulled back, right? There was no boats, we still had buyers. So guess what he did? He flipped them and killed them.
Yep.
Yeah, no, he's been in this weeks. I went to Hands last week. He explained it in some like great wine. So he's been yesterday, Sunday was his first day. First day since last week. Orange shirt, long-time Well, the thing is that what are you going to be careful with this? That mentality.
That's why I'm asking Dan.
Well, the track, we got all that medical stuff.
Your son had this injury, was he planning for him?
No, that's,
Don't screw it.
no, no.
Because you
Yeah, that's what you screw it. What's the way? It's the doctor's order, so.
Was Bernadette drinking better whiskey than you? Or Bill?
No, she had to pay for the Christmas.
How are you doing?
I got a free one.
Good. Terrific. She missed you today, I guess. Of course, misses you from the.
I haven't heard it yet. I've tried to meet
You're, yeah. She had,
I hadn't heard
yeah. That's good. No news is good news. Yeah, for a little while. Better whiskey.
We were pretty thin. We were in danger of lightening up.
There. See, you doing, big guy? You doing good? Real good, yeah.
Abundance of caution, being conservative, it is not to be Well, he can at this point. I was just like, if you could, you know, I mean, I'm sure he'll follow, you know, somebody just like calling my for a couple of years. And, was able to get on the drive. We at least have their information, which I think is better than, no information.
Hey, Mr. Mitchell, how are you? All right, good. Family good? Everybody good? All right. Good. Yeah, no, that's good. Haven't seen any crashes or anything like that, so.
I looked after it. I know.
Oh, so,
IT put a camera, and I know that. You want? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Before we start the meeting, please rise and I pledge allegiance. Prayer. Jack.
Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow your head. Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for this great country we have in this great city. Be with us tonight as we make decisions for the community, and thank you for the people that work at the UC and make it what it is. Thank you again. Amen.
Amen.
Debbie, please.
Chairman Beanbaum,
Here.
Commissioner Brett Parker,
Here.
Commissioner Davenport,
Here.
Commissioner Griffith,
Here.
Commissioner Holmes.
Here. Mr. Mitchell.
Yes, sir, we do have one add-on on 4D for approval of travel expenses for Commissioner Brett Parker.
Okay. Anything else? Any other changes?
No other changes, additions, or deletions.
Okay.
There is one other thing, if you don't mind. Tonight is Mr. Rodriguez's last meeting with us. He is retiring at the end of this month. Mr. Mike Mine, sitting beside him, will be interim director of electric operations. He has been with us for 26 years, knows the job well, and he will be taking over for Mr. Rodriguez.
Okay.
And
Mr. Rodriguez, from the commission to you, thank you for your years of service here. Thank you for guiding the department. And even though you and I have had discussions, sometimes difference of opinion, you have done a great job, and thank you for your years of service.
Enjoy retirement.
You look ready.
I believe so.
At this time, we have public participation. I see some strange faces, some different faces in the audience. I'm sorry. Does anybody want to come forward and speak to us? Seeing no movement, thank you. We need the approval of the consent items.
So moved.
Second?
Whoa, okay, hang on a minute, I'm sorry. I'm out of order here. Do we have anybody that wants to pull anything on the consent items? Well, I want to pull B, C, D, and F. So we're only going to do A and E at this time. And now, Mrs. Fritz Parker,
I'll move for approval of items A and E.
any discussion?
I'll second.
Been seconded by Mr. Holcomb. Debbie, please.
Chairman Beanbaum,
Yes.
Commissioner Brett Parker,
Yes.
Commissioner Davenport.
Yes.
Commissioner Griffith,
Yes.
Commissioner Holmes.
Yes.
Okay. On B and C together, I was looking at the bids on them, and I noticed that there were 2 or 3 or 4 different manufacturers. Is there some kind of rating that these manufacturers, because, you know, if you're looking at differences of manufacturing, do we know that some of these hold up better in the salt air or don't hold up better in the salt air, or some of them have better manufacturing quality control? And I need to ask that to,
We do have, what we purchase do hold up better. We use stainless steel transformers. And all the manufacturers do make those. As far as which transformer we choose for which item, we have a process by which we evaluate them over a 20-year period. And the ones that are more economical, that meet qualifications, are what we usually choose there. So you may look at it, it may not be one may look like it's a couple dollars cheaper than the one we chose, but the evaluation over that period comes out to where the other one's best.
Okay. And when we have a transformer go bad, is that one of those deals that the lights go out, or do they give us a signal that they're tired?
I'm not quite sure I understand that question.
Well, you have a transformer that's doing something someplace. It's
Correct.
either stepping down or stepping up.
Right.
Will it give you a signal that it's about to fail, or do the lights go out and then we go out and replace it?
Normally, it's either something got into the line and blew a fuse to it, or the transformer itself may fail. Usually it's, the transformer itself would have to be lightning. There's no moving parts to them, so they don't just fail that much.
Okay.
Unless, over the time, the ones we used to have could rust out. But we have all stainless, which we still have some old ones online, of course. But no, they don't signal you. You may get one that does something weird, and you got to check it and find out, okay, we do need to change this out. I've seen where lightning has struck them and actually welded some of the windings, and it changed the voltage coming out of them. So you couldn't use them. We had to take them out and change them out. But as far usually they go bad, they usually go bad, and there's a loud boom, and the lights go out.
Okay. And on D, we discussed about the 2-inch water line going in.
Yes, sir. If Mr.
Mr.
Wainscott.
Please.
Derek Wainscott, Director of Engineering. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Thank you. On the developer's infrastructure, there are 2 lots going in on this one that you are putting a 2-inch water line in. Are you following me, or am I?
I'm with you.
Oh, okay. It looks like to me, with the map that was provided to us, or the drawing that was provided to us, that there are other lots that are to whichever direction, and they are in the county. Is this an area that we should be looking at a bigger water main, because there's going to be other houses put in there? And I don't want to put a big water main in and have to flush it at the end of every week to keep the water fresh. And I just want to know that somebody looked at all this before we said yes.
We do look at that. Typically speaking, a rule of thumb is you can put 10, 12, 13 lots on a 2-inch main without upsizing.
Okay.
There's no need for fire protection in this instance. And so a 2-inch lane is acceptable for this application. We looked at it and we didn't think, well, let's put an 8-inch in and for a future connection over there. It wasn't practical.
Okay, we do look at the surrounding area and just not the map that was given to us in our book.
Correct.
Thank you. And on F, Mr. Mitchum, the substation relay work that we're going to do,
Yes, sir.
do we bid that stuff out, or do we have a contract with Duke?
We have a service agreement with Duke that we have used for this substation previously. And this is, I believe, it's a sole source on this particular. They basically built that. Well, before I say too much, Tim can explain that a little bit. They've done all the work, the ones that have the mapping and everything else.
Tim Byerly, Director of System Operations, and pretty much how Mr. Mitchum put it, they've done work on that station for the last 20 years. We have a master services agreement in place with them. They did all the relay change-outs over the last 2 years. So we're continuing with the same vendor, the continuity and the efficiencies they provide.
You say we have a master
Services agreement.
Do we bid that master service agreement periodically, every 5 years, 3 years?
We haven't, because we've really only used it for this station.
for this station only. What happens if we go to another substation?
It would depend on the type of work we need to do, but we could use them for another station as well. But they've done all the work there, so if we went to the Field Street substation, it probably wouldn't apply because unless it was some specialized work we needed done, they're not as familiar with the other stations as they are with Smyrna substation.
And you would bid that work out then?
Probably.
Okay, all right. All right, I'm satisfied, but I can't make a motion to do B, C, D, and F. Can somebody do that for
Sure.
me, please?
Chairman Biedenbach?
Yes.
Motion to approve B, C, D, and F of the consent items? B, C, D, and F.
That is correct.
I second it.
Mr. Holcomb, second. Any other discussion? Oh, I'm sorry, buddy, that was you?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Mr. Davenport seconded that motion. Any other discussion? Debbie, please.
Chairman Beanball,
Yes.
Commissioner Ritz Parker,
Yes.
Commissioner Davenport,
Yes.
Commissioner Griffith,
Yes.
Commissioner Holcomb.
Yes.
Thank you. I have been asked to change the order of business tonight. Mrs. Britz Parker has some conflicting problems, and she would like to talk about the attorney and the second opinion. Mrs. Britz Parker, you are up.
Thank you. If everyone remembers, we had discussed at our last two meetings engaging an attorney independent of the Utilities Commission as well as the City of New Smyrna Beach to issue a legal opinion to us on what we can and cannot spend our money on, pretty much. And you had asked, there were a few attorneys that we had looked at, and Mr. Mitchum had recommended a couple attorneys. I recommended a couple attorneys. And from there, we decided to use Thomas Cloud. He is a partner with Gray Robinson, a long-established firm in Orlando, and has extensive electric and municipal utility experience. We asked him for a not-to-exceed price. I did talk to him on the phone today because he was provided with a lot of different information that he needed to read and study. And in fairness, we felt that he needed to have that information that we wanted him to look at before he quoted us the fee. So he did tell me that he is not at all accustomed to giving a not-to-exceed price, and when he does, he tends to really err on the high side of things. So he told us a price not to exceed $15,000. Now, I think there's quite a bit of information that he needs to take a look at, but one of the things that I also felt he should look at would be to actually look at the pertinent parts of the minutes, starting with the September meeting when we were all appointed, because there had been quite a bit of discussion about what we could and could not spend our money on, and I thought that, taking a look at that was also the piece of the puzzle. It gives you the background of things that have been discussed and where we're at, and I think that that's helpful. So I know that that's probably more than people expected, but I personally would like to see us move forward. I do feel that it's not going to come in that high, but I would like us to be able to move forward on this and recommend that we do so.
Because you are familiar with several municipal audits and different municipalities with your background as an accountant, you're comfortable with the $15,000 price tag?
I am. I wish it was less,
Well, we all do.
but once his billing rate is $250 an hour. I know how long it takes to potentially get through some of this, and then he has to draft an opinion that is defensible. So he has to I want to say, he needs to make sure that's right. And the things that he has to do on his end, it's not like, oh, I'm going to read this and in 5 minutes I'm going to write a letter and I'm done. They have to do more than that. So to answer your question, yes, I wish it was less, but I don't think that we're going to find anyone with this type of qualifications that's going to do it anything significantly cheaper.
Okay. Gentleman sitting up here, Mr. Davenport, do you have anything to add, subtract, weigh in on?
Well, I personally would like some clarity because I've heard, like Bernadette just said, so many things, and I felt like sometimes they were contradicting that I didn't have a lot of clear vision. I'm feeling like, well, can we spend this or we can't spend that? And I'm going, I'm not for spending $15,000, but I'm also for doing the right thing. Now, I don't really know what to say here, but I would like some clarity. It's 60 hours. I mean, you're looking at, he's under 250, you're looking at 60 hours he's quoting us. I don't think it's gonna take 60, I would hope it wouldn't take 60 hours. But like you said, we wanted a second opinion. How, you know, we've opened Pandora's box up. We've gotta go, you know, we want the answer to the question. If we want the answer to the question, then you gotta pay the price. It's, you know, I have 15 attorneys, they ain't cheap, you know. So you want their opinion, they come with a bill. So you gotta, to me, we've sat and debated this for 6 months. It's time to, you know, to me, we want it, we've asked, we all kind of want a little clarity, a second opinion. Yeah, the price is, you know, a little higher. We don't know what it's gonna be. I mean, but like I said, we asked for a second opinion, now we can't, you know, if you ask for it, don't be scared to pay for it. So that's what my 2 cents is, so.
Mr. Griffith?
Just a couple of thoughts, Mr. Chairman. Agree with the gang with respect to the 15,000. It's a big number, but yet it's necessary. Would like to see some more specifics with respect to what is expected for the 15,000. Ms. Parker, if you could outline, you mentioned going back to September, I guess it was.
Right. What I had,
If we could lay out exactly what would make up that 15,000, because this will be a one-time charge, right? One-time event.
I would
with an
anticipate,
expected result.
but you know, we might want to, if he's under in doing it, what I'm hoping, if we wanted to talk to him, if we wanted him to come and actually present his report to us, that would be part of it, so that we could have questions back and forth. And I think that it's not unusual for us to expect that.
Right.
I would certainly expect if someone engaged me back in the day when I was still practicing public accounting and we had a special report to do, we usually presented it to the people that hired us. Absolutely. It's, you know, so I'm sure that that's part of the deal. What I had indicated to him was that, you know, pretty much, and yeah, I wasn't the only one that talked to him. Keep in mind, you know, Mr. Mitchum talked to him also. He's who originally had come up with Mr. Cloud as a candidate to do this. And I had explained to him that we had some confusion and we wanted a second opinion to clearly understand what we could and could not spend money on, the Utilities Commission. I had also asked him, I picked September, the September meeting in which I was appointed, because that's the first time that, you know, we had some new people on here as of that date, and I think that's when the discussion really started on how we could and could not spend our money. So again, I knew from my years of being an auditor that actually sitting down and reading the minutes of an entity, you learn a whole lot from that. What's discussed, what's been said, and you kind of get the lay of the land, and I think that that is also very helpful. So I'm sure that now my gut on that is that he will not be the person at $250 an hour that goes through and reads those minutes from beginning to end. He'll get someone at a cheaper billing rate to go and appropriately highlight the things that pertain to what we want to know about. That's just how it works. He didn't say that, that's a guess. So that's what I had told him, but I would imagine at this point, you know, he will give us an engagement letter to sign. You know, we'll have an assigned agreement, but that's that's what I had outlined for him, and hopefully that we're all on the same page, and I told him the right thing.
Okay, good. That's my expectation. Get clear on the objective, make it real clear what the process is so we can deal with the issues we've been concerned about and asking about, and then have a report for all of us to take a look at and talk to them about.
Yeah, and ask him to present it.
Thank you.
Absolutely, I think that should be part of it.
Thank you.
Anybody else, second? We okay? Everybody understand what we're voting on? $15,000 to engage this man from September. Okay, Debbie, please.
I guess I made the motion. Do we need a motion and a second?
Who made a motion? I'll second it. I didn't hear a motion.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, I made the motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Davenport seconded. No other questions, no other comment? Go ahead, Debbie, please.
Chairman Beanbaugh?
Yes.
Commissioner Ritz Parker?
Yes.
Commissioner Davenport?
Yes.
Commissioner Griffith?
Yes.
Commissioner Holcomb?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Belinsky, if you would, please.
Brian Belinsky, Director of Finance. Commissioners, for the month ended July 31st, 2017, the Utilities Commission's change in net assets for the combined system is a positive $1,188,337. The balance in the fuel and purchase power account is $1,178,000, which is a decrease of approximately $166,000 for the month. Questions?
How do those numbers compare to the same time last year?
The change in net assets is less primarily because we had more contributed facilities last year at this time than this year. Operations is fairly constant. I don't recall on the purchase power. I can get you
Okay,
that
that's fine.
comparison, but I don't.
Thank you.
But we are on track to get to about $1 million at the end of the fiscal year, which is our
You're
target.
comfortable with the
Yes.
purchase power numbers?
Yes.
My same question every
Yes,
month.
and Tim and I talk monthly
Okay.
about where we're going and what we need to do, if anything. And I believe he's comfortable that we're on track right now as well.
And I see Mr. Barley's head
Yeah.
back there saying, yeah, he's okay. Any questions from up here, Mr. Belinsky?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
might I
sir.
suggest that you defer item 4C for just a moment and consider 4B and D either simultaneously or back-to-back, since they're of the same subject matter, that being the expense reports for Commissioners Holcomb and Fritz Parker for the FMEA conference they went to.
Do you have something to say on both of those while you're up there?
I recommend approval.
Recommend approval that we pay both these people since we sent them?
Correct.
Okay. Reimburse them.
Well, no. we
Actually, there's no
didn't
reimbursement,
incur
just that
any-
we accept the expenses that they did incur that the utility did pay on their behalf.
Right. And I'm just going to throw in that Jack got to go for free.
He did.
Okay, so, and they had to pay for me to go, but it wasn't this thing that, all of a sudden I cost more money than Jack.
We don't have a discrimination, we don't
No,
have a
no.
discrimination here
No.
with female versus male or anything like that.
That's right, that's right.
I want to know how you both got there, because I didn't see any mileage costs. did you two levitate?
Neither one of us charged today. But don't worry, we did not drive together.
Go to the same meeting?
We did. We even sat on the same house, different sides of the room.
Buddy or Lee, would you please move for those, even of those two people?
Sure, I move we approve the travel expenses with respect to both Commissioner Holcomb and Commissioner Fritz Parker.
Buddy?
I second that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from, yeah, Lee?
Yes,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, a couple with respect to the current office building and the changes, and now we have the approval, I guess, with respect to the Historical Preservation Commission. Have we had to add any additional costs? We still going to be within budget? I guess Mr. Wayne Scott, I need your help on that.
Wait a minute, let's do a vote on these couple, and then you can ask.
Oh, I'm
the
sorry, I
question.
thought we moved. My bad.
Stay
my
up
bad.
there, I don't want you to wear out walking up.
Stay on
and down.
deck. You're on deck circle. I'm sorry.
No problem, go ahead, Debbie.
Okay, Chairman Beanball?
Yes.
Commissioner Brits Parker?
Yes.
Commissioner Davenport?
Yes.
Commissioner Griffith?
Yes.
Commissioner Holcomb?
Yes.
All right, now,
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Griffith,
Mr.
no
Chairman.
problem.
Yeah. Mr. Wainscott, how are we on budget with respect to our overall office building project?
Are you referring to the COB renovation?
Yes, COB renovation.
Okay. We're on budget as approved by the commission.
Okay.
It's a daily task to work with the contractor and their subcontractors. We've got people displaced within the building. We're trying to keep noise levels down. It's a challenge on this project.
Yep.
We're going to make it. We're going to make the building as beautiful as we can. With respect to the Historic Preservation Commission, their biggest fear that was we were going to cover something that we had no intention of covering. Rumor and innuendo throughout the community. Once it got out that I think someone had put out that we were going to cover all of the yellow brick with metal panels, and I think I got a love letter in the opinions box downstairs. It was interesting to say the least, but the Historic Preservation Commission approved the improvements 5-1 with no reason for the dissenter.
So I hear we expect to be on budget, but just a little bit late with respect to time of completion.
Today is,
Usually time costs money.
Yes,
So
it
that's
does.
kind of why I'm pushing a little bit.
yes, it does. There's a lot of angry people with me within the commission for taking so long, but I have to do it right.
Sure.
The conversation I'm going to have with my contractor tomorrow is you have 29 days to get out of the parking lot.
Good.
I don't think they're going to make the 21 days to get out of the parking lot, but there's 2 phases, and I need them to concentrate on phase 1, which will provide a lot of relief for several departments if they can get that accomplished by September 21st. So my goals are very well defined. Several of my fellow directors remind me of these issues daily,
Every day.
if not more frequently. But yeah, we'll have a successful project when it's over, if that answers your question.
Thank you for the update. Yes.
It looks really good so far.
Thank you.
You're doing a nice job there, thank you, even though they're beating you up. You're a strong man, you can.
Broad shoulders.
You're up. on the-
Okay.
On the
If
western.
we could get the lights there. I think it had been requested that we also have this for our discussion added to this joint meeting with the city.
That is correct.
We had already planned to have this for you commissioners tonight as to what plans we do have on this property and whether or not we're going to need more property by the time we're done. This is a new map. It's similar to what you've seen in the past. I'm not sure, Derek, do we have handouts?
Yeah, I do have handouts.
That may be a little easier to see. Obviously, we have a lot of projects that we intend to do out there. Part of it being the wastewater facility that will be doubled in size.
Thank you, Derek.
Also adding another water plant, an RO plant in the future. From our last studies, and if the growth is where they think it'll be, we're going to need all of this land and possibly more. If you can look, you can see there's quite a few things on here. Water collection, we're enlarging a reclaim pond, reused. Also looking at possibility of using stormwater for that also. Mr. Wainscott with the pointer, in fact, I think I'll let you take it.
Do you want the pointer?
Hmm?
Do you want the pointer?
No, thanks. I think you've been doing this map and hit it quicker than I can. Thank you.
If we start on the left-hand side, we've got a significant potential for water collection and reclaimed augmentation. This is kind of the outline of a pond trying to avoid what appears to be a wetland. Moving down the list, we've got a space for a solar array. You can see that this red hatch is where we think solar arrays could go. And they're scattered throughout the property. And then we've got the master plan that was recently completed and presented is calling for the reuse water pond expansion, and we're kind of targeting this area, which is going to be as close as possible to our existing facilities down here. The WRF is this little bit here. And one of the things that I noticed today that isn't represented on this map, and I'll just try and cover it generally so you get an idea, is when we did this project in this little triangle shape, the amount of conservation easement the district required us to have is represented in this rectangular shape here. You can see the conservation for this project that we were required to provide is about twice the size of the project itself. And that is significant because every one of these little dots and projects is going to have some form of conservation element that the St. Johns River Water Management District or the Department of Environmental Protection is going to require. As we move further down, we've got the wastewater expansion we're targeting for right next to the wastewater plant. The existing well field, the central well field, these 4 wells are existing. In keeping with the well fields, we're kind of looking at this area to expand the well fields because the raw water line kind of parallels this FP&L corridor. Speaking of, this is the FP&L corridor. This is linear hatch here, which bisects our property. We have other existing facilities out here, the head end building, which you've heard Mrs. Keating talk about quite frequently over the last couple of bits. The existing storage pond is this shape. We are moving forward with expanding the reuse pond in conjunction with our wet weather storage pond consumptive use permit with the district, which is due up in 2018. And we're working with a consultant now to come up with a contract proposal to do that work. And trying to get to a point of a kickoff. I believe this commission has already voted on that design work, if I'm not mistaken. Some of the other targets are energy storage for the solar arrays. Any alternative energy would go in this kind of quadrant. This is, of course, the solar array. We've got the reverse osmosis deep well water plant kind of targeted for this area. This area is critical because we've got existing lines running east and west through here, which was the original feed out to Venetian Bay. South of there, we start getting into fleet maintenance and field operations, and I believe electric operations, fleet maintenance, and water resources field operations. And then something that's new this year is the idea of moving the warehouse and procurement offices out here. And that's kind of a new area. We're outgrowing our existing facility at Field Street. If I am correct, we've got the warehouse, T&D, system operations, vehicle storage, and a substation all at Field Street. Did I miss anything, guys? And so basically you've got 4 or 5 departments on top of each other, and kind of the preface of this is to get them separated so that they don't step on each other's toes. But those are the general plans for this property. For reference, pardon me, I'm very familiar with it. This is State Road 44. This is I-95. This is the Walmart that was constructed about 6 years ago.
Okay.
So those solar fields, I guess all these are all these projects on our master CIP plan and budgeted for?
The only one I'm aware of that isn't is the alternative energy, but all of these other projects that I just rattled off rather quickly are becoming in the queue. The We did an alternative energy report about 2 years ago, and they said that we should probably plan for between, in phases, between 10 and 20 megawatts of solar production. The area that's presented before you is just enough to get you to 20.
That's a request, that's not a mandate, right?
Not yet, sir.
No, I know, because when I went to the, whatever the heck it's called, I listened to the presentation on solar, and the people were very passionate that were presenting. The room, though, didn't seem very receptive of the investment, the message, or, obviously moving in this direction. So, one thing is to obviously want it, the other thing is that if it's mandated and we're required to, I mean, at the end of the day, if we're not mandated to do this, I don't know why we would, again, I don't know the financial, I just know that I sat in a room and I listened to people, and there's a lot of groaning, and the people I sat next to were not, didn't seem very receptive to it. And the cost and the return didn't seem to be what was being sold. So for me, when I see, and I don't know what that space is, I've got a little bit of concern there. Also, you're talking about 900 acres, you're also talking about the gateway into our community. I don't necessarily know that, here's this humongous commercial, all these buildings and whatever, right? That's a great piece of property, and I don't, is there we ever looked at alternatives, or is it because of where everything's located, it has to be there? Again, are there other options?
Who came up with these? Who came up with this?
Staff did, we did.
Jack, I'm with you, piggyback there. We're getting ready, you're proposing to build a warehouse and procurement on the most expensive property in the whole southeast Volusia County, other than the Intercoastal Waterway, State Road 44. And I personally, just me sitting here and looking at this, spent many hours looking at this since the last meeting and thinking, I wish I'd have had this stuff. But I personally would like to see us, the Utilities Commission, take the east side of the power lines, and the west side of those power lines, we utilize that in some way, again, for the tax base in our community down the road regarding warehouses and businesses that can operate out of those warehouses, and make it easier on the community. At the same time, take this frontage, and if we can agree upon selling it, to sell the frontage off at a prime price and be able to put it back in our kitty here and upgrade our wells and stuff. We're talking some serious money on that frontage and this property.
Well, the other thing that's missing from that is the dollars that go with each one of those projects. There's, again, I have no idea whether it works or it doesn't. Before we would take something on like that and we would, start to basically occupy that space, I'd want to make sure that that was our only and best use of the property. Are there solutions? Do we need that much of it? Derek, you guys have looked at it a lot closer than I have and a lot more than I have, but that's a lot of property, and it's a lot of good property. And I don't mean all that. So I'm going to say, let's go back, basically past the Walmart, and then the rest of it you can argue up and down whether you're down further 44 makes a difference or not. But again, I think from 1996, when that property was acquired, was that when it was? I think
it was in about 3 different
chunks of
dates.
I don't think the circumstances were the same as they are now, as far as the value goes of the land. And again, I'm just throwing that out there as, again, 900 acres, and I don't know what that total amount of all those buildings and all that investment is there, but I'd need to see more. I would hope to see more, and a lot of those probably, will be long gone when we start, probably half of those.
I'd like to remind the commission as a whole that the property in and of itself was acquired by eminent domain, which has certain amount of restrictions associated with it. And I will defer any questions to that to Mr. Preston. We need to, this is something that the directors and the general manager have developed as a need for this utility. not a wish list. This is, we feel that these items are coming. We're already working on reuse pond expansion. Mr. Hoover and I are taking tours of Port Orange's facilities for, making sure that their reuse expansion works so we can apply it here, adjacent to our existing facilities. If you talk about moving to other areas, now you're talking about getting utilities to it. So there's added cost because we're centrally located to our existing utilities on this property.
And I'm not even disagreeing with that, but at this point, like I said, I would at least want to understand it better than I would right now, because I don't have the clear, like I said, if you came to me tomorrow and said you wanted me to vote for those solar panels and the funding of it, I would absolutely, based on what I heard and the few conversations I've had with the people in that arena, I wouldn't make the investment. That would be so the red areas would be gone. That property would be available. Now, I'm one of 5, so I don't know that everybody else is voting, but for me, there's a lot going on there. Is it, and again, I just want to understand it better. And again, that's all it is. I'd like to see, like I said, I'm sure if all those are on the CIP plan, they've all got budgeted dollars with them, to see what that total plan is to complete that, basically, what we call the utilities park.
Just the amount of land it takes these days to develop, as you know.
Right, I'm not arguing with it.
But in looking at your site plan, and I don't mean to be as specific, but you didn't have flood compensating storage on your site that I'm aware of. A lot of this property is in the floodplain, which makes it even more difficult to use because you have to compensate with significant hydraulic connection to the floodplain. Being the engineer for Venetian Bay and what was known as Rano, which was the sod farm up there, I did the flood study for the entire area.
Right.
And I compared it to what the DOT had, and I was off by 1/10 of 1 foot. So I know what the floodplain is here. It's higher than you think. This land is not 100% usable, and to contemplate trying to slice it up to sell it, you very well could shoot yourselves in the foot, because now you don't have enough room for compensating storage. You don't have enough room for the stormwater component. Those two items are different. You don't have enough room for conservation area. And next thing you know, you're buying mitigation credits. Well, when I built Venetian Bay Golf Course, one mitigation credit was $120,000. Now compare that to preserving existing land that you already have.
I agree with everything you're saying here.
Okay.
Everything you're saying, I agree with. Here's the one thing you haven't said. If there, because we acquired this in '96, are there other opportunities, like, if you went out another 1.5 miles or another 2 miles, is there other property that's available? Just before we go, and again, I get tons of grief on, you guys are gonna take that corridor into our city, and it's gonna be basically a big utilities business park, all these industrial buildings. And I wanna be able to look these people in the face and say, yeah, we did, because we acquired this land knowing what we had to do. It's not 900 acres, because you've made that point clear. It's 450, or it's half, I think is what you said, or less than that.
No, don't, no.
Well, you said it's about half.
We've ordered a boundary survey and title search to confirm the number.
You were just on 1/10%. You're not even-
Usable space.
Usable.
Where's that
Usable
confidence
space.
at?
If we could
Usable
clarify,
space.
that's half of 900. There's only about, I believe, 660 acres left
All right.
Right, and
that's
again,
unused, so it's
guys, I don't have a
definitely
force-
less than the 900.
I don't have a for sale sign hanging out there, and I don't even have any intentions of selling anything, or even, I just want to understand, again, it's a very large asset. I can't imagine the numbers that go with those projects. That's going to be a significant number. I just want to have a better understanding of it if I were to ask to vote on. Like I said, what I know on solar, you can take the red boxes off for me, or the red spaces. Again, it doesn't mean that I can't get there, I'm just not there yet. So I just want to understand it better, and I think I should sit in this seat and understand that better. That's all I'm asking for.
What about the extension of Williamson Boulevard?
At this time,
Let me make a statement here. For ex parte, I want everybody to know who I've talked to about this chunk of land since last month. Glenn Storch, Danny Wiemeyer, Dale Williams, Rick Hawes, Jim Russell, Miss King at the City Planning Department, Khalid Rashidad, Pam Brancalcio, and the mayor about this particular property. And the reason that I went to them was because I was interested in Williamson. I also talked to our county, Deb Denny's, and she indicated I should go talk to Glenn Storch, which I did. At this point, it's my understanding from the county and from the city that nobody has money to put Williamson in at this point, and they are not even considering it, and that the TPO, which is either the county or the state, and I'm not sure which one it is, isn't even on the list. Now, the developer up north of us here has run Williamson down to the edge of Pioneer Trail, and it's expected that there is going to be an extension at some time. But at this point, nobody has anything that they can contribute one way or the other. And because of that, I feel a great deal like you do, Commissioner Holcomb, that this is an asset that, and I checked some property prices along 44, and a piece of property that's less than an acre between the Chevy dealer and Home Depot just transferred for better than $500,000, and it's less than an acre. And this is property, and I don't know how many front foot acres we have out there, but at $500,000 an acre, it doesn't take very much time to get into some, as they say, the United States government, some real money. And I would, and I can't propose it because I sit in this seat, but I would hope that we could have somebody, one of the other commissioners, to say that we recommend that we go to an RFP, that we get somebody in here that knows how to develop property or knows what property's worth, and look at this chunk of property and see if we are on the right track or whether we should scatter some of these things in other parts of the city. In my business, in the 50 years that I was in business, I was a garbage man and a recycler, and everybody wanted their garbage to disappear from in front of the house, but they didn't want my trucks parked in their backyards. And I always had to go find some place where the property was less expensive to put the stuff, and that was fine with me because my garage was a lot less expensive to build. But I have gone out and looked at our repair facility out at Swoop, and it looks like a typical truck repair facility, and believe me, I have run one for almost 50 years, and I don't want something like that sitting on 44, period. So I would hope that we could have somebody, and I don't even know who to ask or how to ask this. I'm hoping the four of you guys up here can help me out, but I think we need somebody to come in to look at this property and all the other property that we own and see what we can do. The people that we have, the directors that we have, do a great job of buying electricity and getting electricity distributed and fixing it when it's broken, and the people that get the water out of the ground and filter it, and after we use it at the sewage plant, they do a great job. And I thank every one of you and for the time that you put and the jobs you do. I'm just not quite sure that you're that good at developing land, and I would like somebody who is a land developer to look at this and say, yes or no, we're on the right track. My 2 cents worth. Mrs. Britz Parker, three of us on this side have had our talk. You go.
I agree with you. So I would like to, I'm willing to go ahead and make a motion that we do an RFP to find some type of expert to take a look at what is proposed and let us know if we're on the right track. If this is the best way for us to go for all these planned things. The other thing that I would like to, it's kind of, it's part of it though, but as part, I would also like to become more knowledgeable than I am about solar right now. And I mean, I listened to some of the stuff that Jack did, but I also sat over lunch with a guy that's with the FMPA, and you know, he was pretty pro-solar, and I'm not ready to give up on that yet. And, you know, it's just like anything. I think that, you know, it starts expensive and it gets cheaper, you know? Like I can remember when our, you know, a VCR cost $800, now you get $2,000, a Blu-ray player, and now you can get one for like $100. So I'm not ready to give up on that yet, but I would like to see us engage a company that could help us determine if this is the best way for us to go under the current set of circumstances.
Mr. Griffith?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I agree with that, by the way. I just would request one more thing with respect to the management team who pulled all this together, is how can you prioritize this work or all of these activities or all of these potential projects? We would have to take a look at prioritizing some. I mean, in addition to solar, I've got the same concerns about solar as far as we got to be thinking about it.
The majority
Even
of
though the costs
this,
are bad.
the majority of this is prioritized in our CIP already.
It is, okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's good.
It has been put in there.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
And I know we have big water issues we have to deal with. And we're not going to be moving water plants around, so.
And
Anyway.
if I may add a
Yes.
couple of things there. You could take away the solar. You still have the mitigation of wetlands. You still have conservation area.
Sure.
And you're still very limited on the land that you have to use there. As we mentioned earlier, this was all taken in eminent domain for utility purpose, not development, not, you know, commercial, whatever. It's utility purpose.
So to make sure, can I just, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Let him finish. Go ahead, Mr. Mitchell.
As I was trying to point out, we may even need more land. And as Mr. Wainscott presented, we already have our waste facility there, which we have to build the addition to that in that area. Right. We have our main substation out there, and that's where our transmission ties are. That will also have to be there. We have the main water lines, the raw mains that we will also have to put, the new water RO plant will have to be in conjunction with that. All of these are quite large facilities. You also have to have, and Mr. Hoover may be able to explain this a little better, but on these well fields, they are now pushing for, I think it's either 500 or 1,000 feet area around them to protect from, you know, any environmental impacts, those type of things. So that all has to be looked at. So when we get down to it, even without the solar, we're very limited on what we've got out here. These projects that the staff and I put together have been done from the studies that have been done. It's not our opinion that we're going to need this. They're telling us that you're going to have to do this. So we do have to do it. This is the best place to do it. To sell it, you're still going to have to buy somewhere else and build it elsewhere, and which would not be nearly as applicable as in this area where we already have the facilities that we need to tie to. I just wanted to put that in there. Thank you.
And again, I don't disagree with anything you're saying. Like I said, it's, for me, and again, I know not all of the acreage was taken under eminent domain, was it? Or some of it was bought and some of it was obtained through eminent domain?
That's where I was going to, Jack. Can we ask Mr. Preston to comment on that?
Comment on the eminent domain. Prior to
Yes.
that, however, I want to caution all of you because you are not in the business of development.
Whoa,
And you are
whoa,
spending-
Whoa, Bill.
And you are spending ratepayers' money. And you need to determine, are you spending ratepayers' monies for the benefit of your purposes as a utilities commission or in the movement and forwarding of development of property?
Bill, what we're trying to figure out here, is this the best use for our utility? And do we need to put it on land that is this expensive? And if somebody comes back that knows how to do land in this community, and I'm not talking about in Florida on the west coast or the east coast, I'm talking about somebody that knows something about this area. If they come back and say, after they talk to Mr. Wainscott, and after they talk to Mr. Mitchell, and we talk about the wells and the safety area of the wells, and they look at this and say, hey, you're going to have, we can't do anything with it that makes any sense other than what you've already planned. And if somebody that knows what they're talking about tells me that, I'm willing to listen to them. But at this point, I have too many of these people that I've talked to in the last month that are telling me otherwise. Now, they might not know any more than I do, and I will admit I am a truck mechanic and a garbage man by trade, and I don't know about land development. But I want somebody to tell me so that I have a feeling and I have a comfort level, because putting solar up, if Elon Musk is as good as we all think he is, and he gets roof panels that everybody and their brother wants them on their house, we might not have to put these solar panels in. You got all kinds of people, all kinds of tree huggers loving the idea of solar panels. I don't happen to be one of them. But that's neither here nor there. I want somebody, excuse me, I want somebody to tell me that this is the best, highest use for this chunk of property, that knows what they're talking about. And when they tell me that, that's fine. If they tell me, no, there's other ways to do it, and we can put the facilities in other places in this community that are not worth what that is, I will listen to them.
My caution remains.
Thank you for your
Those
caution.
you're listening
Thank
to
you
are
for your
developers.
caution. I appreciate
Excuse me.
that.
Mr.
Go ahead, buddy.
Chairman. You know, me being a ratepayer and a taxpayer in this community, and respecting what our directors have done here and laid out, and everybody here, we're all just trying to do the right thing. And the right thing is, if you've got the most expensive land in the community, so what if we were, after getting approval from proper legalities of the attorneys, if we were to cut off that front part, just using an example, we could probably sell the front part for as much as we paid for all the land, just things like that. But we do need to know some information here. Now, am I for today voting and recommending let's look for a developer? I would say really not this meeting, but let's get this clarified a little more.
I'm not looking for a developer. I want somebody to tell me.
RFP, okay.
I want somebody to tell me what they think this land is worth, either dollar-wise or something else, something that I can have an idea of what I'm talking about and hang a hat on. Right now, I can't hang my hat on this.
Well, let me
Go
ask you a
ahead,
question.
Jack.
Well, two things, and again, first one, I mean, you could solve that through a workshop, invite all these people to have their other opinions on what the property could be used for, to sit and present at a workshop to tell us what they think. That doesn't mean, this is what really drives me nuts sitting out here. Again, everybody's come to the conclusion that we have a for sale sign, an ulterior plan, and we've got this thing sold. You're talking about millions of dollars here, millions. And I want, before somebody comes to me and asks me to vote for it and approve it, I want to make sure I'm spending the money the right way. I want to make sure that we're using this property to its maximum potential. I want to vet the whole process. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. And then if we don't fall in line with what the plan is, and we ask questions, somehow the tone changes.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, that drives me nuts. I have a real problem with it, and it's just, I just have questions. I don't have a plan, but I want my questions answered, and I want to look at this further, other than I've got 20 arrows with 20 bullet points sitting on it to a property with lines drawn around it. I need more. That's all I'm asking for. I don't think that's a bad thing, sitting where I'm sitting with what I've got, because you're gonna need money for all this stuff. You're gonna come want us to vote on it.
Yes, sir.
I don't see a problem with me wanting to know what the heck I'm gonna vote on with that type of dollars. So, again, there might be 100 obstacles. We might get to the end of this and go, you know what, absolutely, this is absolutely the best use. We have no other choice. We have to go there. But I can at least stand in the community when people go, what the heck are you guys doing? And I can defend it. That's all I'm asking for. If that's the best case and the best use and it's the best for the Utilities Commission, then that's what we're gonna do and I'll defend it. But I gotta understand it to vote it. And the tone changes when we go against the grain and ask questions, and I got a real problem with that. So that's my 2 cents.
And if I could add,
Go ahead, Ms. Pitt. No, go ahead, Ms. Pittsburgh.
is that I agree with everything that Jack has said and what's been stated here, but it's not at all that we're looking to develop anything. Not at all. It's more that obviously, this property that is right on 44 is worth a lot more money than it was when it was purchased. So, and I don't even want to say highest and best use, okay? Obviously, from a money generating standpoint, the city and the county are going to get a lot more money in their pockets from some other type of taxable development that's along 44. Like, that's going to be the highest and best use for just highest and best use. That's not what I don't think that's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is saying, like, okay, with all the things that we have to do, is it really long-term in the best interest of the Utilities Commission to do it the way that you have it laid out? And I'm with Jack, that if we have somebody that comes to us and they say that really knows what they're doing here and says, yep, this is the best deal, and you guys had so much vision when you purchased it, back when you did, to be able to get this in, then yes, then I can support it when other people in the community are saying, what the heck are you doing, taking this extremely expensive property and having like utility warehouse stuff be there. You know, and maybe it could be. Maybe somebody would come up with something that says, well, you know what, here's a way that you can fit all the stuff that you want to do in here and be able to, if legally we can, not knowing what stuff was taken by eminent domain and how that all works, what if we were able to market some of the property that is directly on 44 and bring that money in for our ratepayers to help pay for some of all this other stuff that's really significant. And we're not even saying that we want to do that, but I'm with Jack. I think that all of us are like, we don't really know. And that's why we're here, because we have a fiduciary responsibility to see that we are handling this in the best way possible for all parties concerned. And so we're not looking to develop, we're just looking to make sure that we're doing the best thing. And this is hard stuff.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchum, you were next.
Yes, if I may. You mentioned several people that you talked to in the last month concerning this property. None of those have inquired here or asked anything about it. Majority of who you mentioned are either developers or tax collectors. They are not ratepayers that this property was obtained for. I would be concerned as to who we'd bring in to look at this as development. I would say it would have to be a utility expert in development of what's needed. We already have the studies showing what we have to do. They are all in our CIP with figures attached to them. If you want to read that, they're all there. We could do a presentation going forward on all of these projects we're talking about and lay it out with the estimated cost, you name it. It's just I'm concerned as to the people mentioned were, like I said, sound like all developers or tax collectors. And like I said, I've been here 30-some years. My number one is the ratepayer and the utility.
And ours is too. That's who we work for. I mean, I get it. I'm not concerned about the tax collector, and I'm not concerned about, it's zero, that might be good for them, but if it's not good for us,
Correct.
That's what's gonna make my decision. It's gotta be what's best for us. I can't sit there, but I have to, if I'm gonna be a good partner in the community, at least go, okay, because let's not kid ourselves, it's not gonna be the most attractive, or maybe we work with them. We figure out a way to go, this is how we're gonna make your entrance into your community look well. I don't wanna just start throwing this up and everybody have heartburn over it once we're too far in and too deep. I just wanna understand this better, and that's all I'm looking for. And I absolutely understand where my loyalty lies, and I have no problem making the decision based on that. But I wanna hear both sides. There might be a better way. And for me not to be willing to invite people in and on something like that and see if there's not a better way, it's not like we're gonna build it tomorrow, right?
Well, I understand, yes. And then to let you know, this is a conceptual plan. As far as warehouse and procurement being at that exact spot on 44, that's not a done deal, obviously.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
if I may, because I think
Yeah.
you may have inadvertently insulted me in some manner. Just
Derek, if I'm going to try to insult you, you will know it. It won't be an inadvertent.
let me just
No,
give
I
you
didn't. Go
some
ahead,
of
sir.
my qualifications. I have been an engineer in this community for the last 20 years. I have developed countless properties, both public and private. all of Venetian Bay, all of the Berry Golf and Plantation Country Club. My qualifications in land planning are bar none. And I have worked diligently with our other directors and our other managers on this piece of property. One of the things that is not clear is that this is a bubble plan.
This is a,
Bubble plan. It's not even what I would consider a conceptual level plan. This is a bubble plan used for planning purposes for the future. One of the things that is not clear on this plan that only I know because I drew the lines myself is the amount of buffers available to protect views are significant. I'm not talking about 100 feet, I'm talking 200, 250, 300 feet plus. We have no intention of putting warehouses on 44 to ruin the view coming in, I assure you. But my qualifications as an engineer, working here for 6.5 years as a specialist in utilities, and before then a specialist in traffic, a specialist in subdivision planning, transportation analysis. I assure you I would not bring this document to you unless I was prepared to discuss it and defend it. And let me just reassure you that you start selling pieces of property, which is fine, but the conservation, the flood mitigation is going to become much more of a burden for the remainder of the parcel.
and Mr. Wainscott, believe me, I heard what you said, and I am not questioning. However, you are part of the Utilities Commission.
I understand.
And I have to be able, as the other commissioners do, to come into to look at the people in this town and say, the decision that we made is absolutely the best decision for the community of New Smyrna Beach. And that's what, and if I use the highest and best as a improper term for with this property, because it's an economic term or a development term, I apologize. As I said, I'm a truck mechanic by trade, but I want somebody to look at this that is outside the competing forces that are looking at this chunk of property and look at it and say, and as Jack said, yeah, that's what we should do with it. And I can defend that. Or if he says the first 400 feet or 500 feet, don't use it, sell it, then I can defend that. If he says, put it out there, and if this is the greatest development that I've seen that Mr. Wainscott put together, I will say, fine, I'm glad. I was sorry that we spent the money, but I'm happy with the decision. Ms. Brooke Parker, go ahead.
I have nothing new to add.
Lee?
Mr. Chairman, my thought is I need to understand more about what we have right here first. Okay? Now, longer term, we may need to get to where you're talking about with respect to a visionary plan. But this is our base core business right here. We need to understand that we're not going to do anything one way, shape, form, or fashion that would impact on the core business, the ratepayers, and so on and so forth. So I would like to just take time here, and step one to me would be to really, this is the first time I've had a chance to kind of look at this.
And there's no numbers with it.
No, exactly, and I need to go, and I need to go look at those prioritized activities and so on and so forth. So I think the first step here is to really just at least give us a month or two to look on what we have here.
I agree.
Before we start jumping and reaching out beyond our abilities at this time.
And I would ask just two things. There's what the dollars are going to be, what the space is, and then what are the population calculations that we're actually using? When we say what we're going to take this and, because I've seen some numbers out there recently where New Smyrna is, you know, and I've sat through all the boards I've been on. I've listened to everybody come. The biggest number I've seen is, you know, somewhere around 10% the next 10 years. But what's, you know, I heard a number thrown out there the other day that somehow in the next 20 years we're going to be at 40,000 to 50,000 people in New Smyrna. I don't see how that happens, but if it is gonna happen, and that's what we've gotta build toward, I'd like to understand that more. So what was the population, as far as this need goes, where were we at, or the, growth?
This plan incorporates the expansion of the wastewater facility, a new reverse osmosis plant. Both of those projects were labeled in the master study. Substation expansion, which was in the master study. Some of the other projects, for instance, fleet maintenance, we've been asked by the city to vacate that facility, and we have to move them to a place. We're outgrowing our other facilities. We have to move some here and some there. We are a growing community. We're a growing organization, both here and at our other facilities. It's all together, we've got the WRF office building, the Glencoe Water Treatment Plant office building, and those operators. We've got system operations. We've got T&D, central office building houses, HR and IT, and executive and engineering and finance. And finance is broken down into customer service. Again, we're growing and we're growing. We have to have a place to go and to provide the services, whether it's electric, water, or wastewater.
And I don't disagree with any of that, but right now, we have the current spaces that we take care of 25,000 people on. And I understand when you guys talk, everything's automatic, we're percentage of use, and then once they're here, it triggers this, and we gotta start to build the infrastructure. I'm just curious, I'm a math guy, so I'm sitting there going, okay, there's 25,000 people in New Smyrna. Let's say go ahead.
25,000 connections.
Right, okay. So where do you see those connections? And I know this has gotta be more than 10 years, it's gotta be, 20, 30, 40 years out. Where are those projections at as far as connections?
You've got about 4,000 to 5,000 connections south of State Road 44. Coast of Woods is bringing in 1,000. Verano, which is the property just north and west, has got a proposed 700. I mean, I can go on and on.
I understand that, but I mean, at the end of the day, you just named a couple thousand. You didn't name 25,000.
Almost, no. The
3,000, 4,000?
total number that we're using in our analysis is 14,000 new connections.
Okay.
The population projection, and that's over 20 years.
20 years at 14,000 connections?
Yes.
Is that what you said, Derek?
I'm not even here to disagree with that. I just need to know the numbers. So it's not like, well, I just want to know all the numbers that go into that map to say at this date, based on what our projections are. And I'm with you guys. I'd project a little bit lofty there. I'd hate to be caught short and not have enough and then be in a predicament. So, but if you see what I'm saying, if you say, okay, if it's 20 years, or 25,000, now you add 14 or 15,000. When you look at the map and the scale, and you say, okay, this is what we operate right now with 25,000 connections, we're adding substantially, and I understand there's new guidelines and new regulations and more space needed to provide these plants. I get it. I just want to understand it a little better. That's all I'm asking for. So all the numbers for if it's what the connections are going to be and what the dollars associated with this, and maybe when we have these projected to be done, what years on the CIP or range of years.
And the cost.
Yeah, let me say something, since I was the one that said that I wanted an RFP. It might be, after listening to discussion up here, that we let staff give us a briefing of some kind. And Mr. Mitchum, how long will it take you to put that together? Because I realize we're looking at some timelines here, and you gotta move a maintenance facility to someplace in this town here because the mayor's standing up there saying, I want that property for boat ramps. Now, how long is it gonna take your staff to pull your budget together or your CIP or whatever and tag it to this so that we know what we're talking about? Can you do it? How busy are you? Are you guys
Oh, bad question.
Well,
Very-
sure, we hired some people last month ago or 2 months ago, and that's another thing. I see we got 7 or 8 or 10 positions that are open that we're having trouble filling.
Yes, sir.
I'm not staying another month.
Well, excuse me.
Why not, Mr. Rodriguez?
I've already made plans to retire.
We do have, as I said, most of this is in the CIP that you could look at, but we can put it together, tie these exact parcels to those projects and the numbers. Um,
And the years-
Derek might shoot me, but we might could do it by the next meeting.
I might shoot you, Ray.
The years that you need to put them in, because obviously.
That's all there, but we can present it in
Okay.
one piece. Give us a couple months.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean,
yeah.
like I said, it's not like we're gonna break ground tomorrow.
Right.
So this is not,
Do
I'm
our
fine
homework.
with that.
Yeah, we
If
gotta do
it's-
some
if
homework.
it's-
Right, because obviously the way that you have presented it to us hasn't made it through. And you haven't
That's true.
convinced the five of us sitting up here that this is what needs to be done. So you need to make a new presentation somehow to convince us that we don't do or go in another direction.
Well, I
And
think,
if-
I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just
No,
thinking
no,
to
if we
prepare,
can do
and
that-
it would help you considerably if you do go back, look at the CIP, which we provided, if you need it again, whatever. But, and these, the studies we've done, but we can put that together in one piece. But it may prepare you a little bit just looking at the CIP, because we've got years, they're staggered out, and there's dollars tied to those.
But I also think if we do have one, if we have one map with this all on it, with the dollars, the years, the projected connections, everything, that if anybody wanted this disputed, if anybody had heartburn, we could refer them to that. Because I can't sit here and say, well, go to the CIPs and go to the, hey, like, don't you know what you're talking about? Like, we can put it on there and it's real easy to talk about. This is what the projections are. If you've got heartburn with it, tell me what your heartburn is and let's address it now. So let's create a tool that I think helps us understand it better. That's all I'm looking for. 90 days before the end of the year, this is not next month urgency for me.
Well, if I may just expand on this discussion a little bit, because a lot of the times, I have an engineer's mind, and I don't always know how to express the thoughts that are running through my mind to that of a truck driver or a garbage man or a car salesman. So,
That's fine.
so I guess what I'd like to do then is make a sample of the information you've asked for, and if we can do it by email.
Absolutely.
To say, this is kind of where I'm headed with the exhibit on how I'm going to present it. And is this what you're looking for, before I spend a whole lot of time and effort standing at this podium trying to defend something?
Couldn't agree more.
That's great.
That's fine, Derek.
That's great.
Okay.
Buddy, I'm having trouble hearing you over there.
Well, probably could just mark this up and give it, Derek, and tell him what we want, real simple, things here and the money here, and
No, I understand.
He's already had quite a bit of trouble fitting this in.
I understand.
We went through
I
quite a
think
bit
the
on it.
information that you're looking for. The presentation coming from an engineer to other lay people can come across as complicated, and that's
Try it fast.
okay.
We'll do it.
All righty. Mr. Preston, we're looking for commissioners or council's report. You got any?
No report tonight.
Thank you. If you would, please.
Good evening, Brittany Pitcher, HR Manager. I have before you tonight recommendations for fiscal year 2018 employee health care coverage. You've been provided detailed information regarding the renewals and have had the opportunity to review such. Are there any questions?
I had one on that major medical. We went with Florida Healthcare at a 10.5% increase. And if I looked at it right, the Health First was a reduction of 17%, but the reduced coverage. So I didn't understand that. So, I mean, when we say reduced coverage, is it substantial? Was it, could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Certainly.
Before I discredit a 17% reduction or a 27% increase of our option, I just wanted to understand what it is.
Certainly. Yes, a reduced coverage would mean our employees wouldn't have as high of a coverage when they go to the doctor. They would spend more out of pocket. They may have deductibles where they don't have deductibles now. They are also, Health First is also out of Brevard County, so their only network is in Brevard County. a lot of our employees are in Volusia County, so that would not work for them to travel from county to county. So, yes, sir. Does that answer your question?
I'm just curious why they would quote, I mean, why don't they just do like in Tampa or something? I mean, if they get the lowest number, that doesn't.
Trying to gain business. I don't.
I get it. I mean, and just to elaborate, when we went up to the meeting or the seminar, one of the biggest problems we have is compensation. So, we're losing people. We're the total package. We compete with basically private companies that we better get under the understanding of to be competitive. If we want good people, we got to be competitive. We got to have good benefits. We got to have good compensation. And I think looking at we sat there for probably 30 to 35 minutes talking about why these people are jumping around so much from place to place. It's not for big dollars, it's a little bit of benefits. It's maybe $1 more, but it's also the environment of in which they work too. So. I just want to understand that, but I also want to share that with you because it was a pretty hot topic out there of be prepared for.
Yeah, that's right. Be ready, get ready.
Another question? Mr. Davenport? Do you have anything?
No, sir. I'm good.
I move we approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch you seconded. Okay, thank you.
Please.
Chairman Beanbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Ritz Parker?
She had to leave early.
Mr. Davenport?
Yes.
Mr. Griffith?
Yes.
Commissioner Holton?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for your work. Good deal.
Yeah, good piece of work.
All right. I had a couple of things that I wanted to talk about. Okay, number one is gone, discussion of the 800 acres. Because we have some people, or some positions that we're trying to fill, and what I read in the chairman, or in the CEO's report, that we have some of these that are open 2, 3, 4, 5 months. I'm concerned with filling the CEO's position, and even though we had a timeline set out that we were going to start to try to hire a company to help us find a new CEO, I would like to go earlier than we have it on the record for. I think we should start to try to do that now. That's my 2 bits opinion worth. Go ahead, Jack.
So that was one. So, and
Right.
it was, here's what it really is gonna come down to. It's compensation. I think the last time we went through this, they hired a firm, they went out, they had a couple selections, they couldn't get together other dollars. It was very eye-opening to me of what we better be prepared to take on, because it's, if you think that you're gonna sell, it's a great little town and
We're nice guys.
we're nice guys and the quality of living and all that, we're gonna have a meeting where there's nobody here. But so, just the numbers, and again, I can't talk to, I don't wanna throw a number out there, because I don't think it'd be fair to you, but I want the commissioners to know the number that I actually heard on a business the size or what the market was. And obviously I wouldn't want to tip our hand
No.
in the arena. So, Mr. Preston, how would I kind of, if I sent that number to you, you could probably share that with everybody?
No, sir.
You can't?
No, sir.
Okay.
I will not be a conduit. If you have anything to express to the other commissioners, it has to be in public.
Okay, I mean, it's just,
Well, and then Jack.
the company that was up there, it's a significant number, it's pretty significant number, so just be prepared, don't be shocked. I think the positions you guys have.
Now, is there a reason that we should start now? And is there a lack of the qualified personnel out there? Because if you're talking to me, just in my little industry, we're having trouble. I can't hire off the street because I just can't.
Well, Tim was there, so what basically what they said is the qualifications, the people that are truly qualified, that number, the people that need the people that are qualified to run these things, the people that are tapping into that pool of people has grown, I think it was 6 or 7 times. It was pretty substantial. So there used to be this great little pool of people you could pull from when there was only, I'm gonna say like 4 or 5 different types of businesses that were reaching into that pool. Now that's multiplied by 7, 8 times. So the pool's still the same.
Yeah.
The demand on the outside is far greater. So it was very interesting to sit and listen to. But that's just a heads up, that's what we're gonna be dealing with.
Right. Again, Jack, you want to start early to get the people in here? Is it going to do us any good to start earlier, or am I being an alarmist?
If
I wouldn't.
I can speak to that, Commissioner
ahead.
Biedenbaugh. So we are planned to start this process at the beginning of September. It is an entire process, which includes an RFP to find a consultant and select a consultant. And so the time frame that we've given ourselves from September through December will take us through that entire process of developing the scope for the RFP, putting it out to bid, which has its own time frames and requirements.
Right? We go open in September and that closes in December. We make that decision in
Our
December.
goal is to have a firm selected in December so that they can start searching in January.
good. We decided to give them a year.
We're going to start in next week.
Next week.
Next week anyhow? I'm 6 days early or 14 days early?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
What I want to make everybody aware of, be prepared that you're, if you do find somebody and they're recommending them to be prepared to make a decision and not kind of dilly-dally around with it. That was what I got out of that. Tim, you sat there, did you kind of get the same thing from, I mean, you sat in the same meeting, so it was interesting.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Do you have anything else?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, are we set for Wednesday night at 6 p.m.
With the
review of the budget
Right.
and so on? Have we gotten any questions back from the city other than what you've already sent us?
We have got no
Wasn't
topics
much.
from the city. We have sent them that we will be there Wednesday at 6
Wednesday at 6.
and for the budget presentation and the discussion of the property.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Davenport, you have anything else you want to say?
Yes, sir.
Jack, I'm done. We're done.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank everybody.
Yes, sir.